It's Valentine's Day coming up this week, and I thought I would take a break from our normal series to talk about the chapter that is famous for love. Anybody know what that is? 1 Corinthians 13, called the love chapter. So we are going to be looking at that today, and this is also the big theme over everything we do right now is discipleship, the basics. And this is one of the most basic of messages today. And by basic, I mean we shouldn't tune out here. What I'm saying, this is important for our lives and everything we do in this church. All right, so let's look at 1 Corinthians chapter 13. If you have your Bibles, you can read along with me or you can follow up on the screen. 1 Corinthians chapter 13, verse 1 says, "If I speak in the tongues of men and of angels." We are a Pentecostal church. That means that we believe in the gift of tongues. Sometimes God gives an interpretation with that. Most of the time, it's in our prayer language talking to God. So we believe in that. And Paul says, "If I speak in the tongues of men and of angels, but have not love, I am only a resounding gong or a clanging cymbal." Now, if we were to see somebody in this church stand up and begin to speak in tongues, there might be some automatic assumptions. Maybe that this person is very close to God. God's Spirit is on them, and this is exciting, okay? That would be our normal assumption. But what Paul is saying here, if there's somebody like that that's doing that, but yet they're not a person who loves other people, then you know what it is? Can you imagine if I went by Fran and got a gong and went, gong? Do you think she'd be ministered to by that? No. How many of you have heard... How many of you have heard that song that all it has is gongs in it? Have you heard that song? I haven't either. They don't make those. It would not be something that somebody would listen to. Gongs are like, oh, they're jolting. And this is what it's like to use this great gift, but yet not love people. So without love, let's make it personal. I annoy, that's what a gong does, doesn't it? I annoy and turn away people instead of pointing them to Christ. So that means that you can stand up in this church and you can speak in tongues, but if you go in the very next breath and put down your brother or sister, ream them out, lose your temper here in the church, it's just a big old gong. It's annoying. Amen? That's hard, I'm sorry. But it's the truth. One wrong note can ruin a song. Now, my wife and I, we love music, and it's amazing. Have you ever thought about how many notes are in a song? So, hun, when you're playing, how many of your fingers are usually touching the keyboard at a time? 10. So you're using all of your fingers most of the time, okay? So, okay, 6 or so, 8 maybe, and that's happening every second, sometimes half a second. Can you imagine how many notes are just in one song, 3 or 4 or 5 minutes? Thousands upon thousands of notes. But if somebody sings a song and they go off key on one of those notes, what do? If you're a musician, you're like, oh, no. And it ruins the entire song. And so Paul's starting off and saying, you can have these wonderful spiritual gifts, but if you're going to be mean to people and not love them, it makes me cringe. It ruins the whole song. One word spoken in anger can ruin your witness. If you're trying to lead somebody to the Lord, please, by all means, don't go postal on them, right? You can ruin your witness. Verse 2, "If I have the gift of prophecy." So that means God's Spirit comes on me and I speak a word to somebody that's right on, that God wants to speak to them. And sometimes maybe that's even something that's going to happen in the future in their life. If I have that gift, number one, is that a great gift? Yes, we need people to boldly proclaim words of truth on God's behalf. If I have the gift of prophecy and can fathom all mysteries, do you think the gift of discernment is important today? Yeah. Isn't it amazing if somebody walks in here and God gives you the word, exactly what they're facing in their life, and you can call that out right there? Is that a necessary gift? Yes, it is. And this is amazing. And if I have all knowledge, I'm not there yet, but this is an amazing thing. And if I have faith that can move that mountains, I tell you, when we were building this church, I wish we had somebody that had the faith to move that mountain, because we had to use a lot of machinery to get it out, right? That would be amazing faith. Somebody have the faith to come over and lay hands on somebody and for them to be healed like that. Do you think that's an amazing gift? But Paul says, if I have the gift of prophecy and can fathom all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have faith that can move mountains, but yet I don't love people, I'm nothing. So let's put it in context. Without love, I annoy and turn away people instead of pointing them to Christ. And you'd think that if I had these wonderful gifts, that I would be a better person, that people would look up to me. But without love, I'm not a better person. Okay, well then, if those gifts are not something that will help me be a better or make a difference, maybe if I give all I possess to the poor, can you imagine how much ever that you have in your bank account, emptying that out, selling your house, selling your cars, and going down to someone in need and say, here, take that? Do you think that would be an amazing gift that would impact somebody? Yes. But here he says, if I give all I possess to the poor, keep that in mind, and maybe let's go a step further, and surrender my body to the flames. Let's say Sayer is willing to give up his life, not to deny Christ, to be a bold witness for Christ. If he does that, if I give all I possess to the poor and surrender my body to the flames, but yet have not love, if I don't love people, I don't gain anything. Okay? Now, if I gave to the poor like that, I would expect that to garner me the favor of God. Right? If I was willing to sacrifice my life for the sake of the gospel, I would think that would earn me something, right? But God's saying, if you don't love people, if that's not the motivation behind what you do, you know what you gain? Nothing. I gain nothing. Without love, I annoy and turn people away instead of pointing them to Christ. Without love, I'm not a better person. Without love, I receive no reward, no matter what good that I try to do. In the absence of love, even the best things we do are meaningless and are sometimes counterproductive. Let's just give you an example of this. Let's say that there's somebody that's poor on the side of the road, needs money, and you pull out money from your pocket. I can't believe that you're here. Here, take this money. What does it do for that person? Does that lead them to Christ? No, they feel belittled, worth in. Maybe they don't even want to take your money. It can be counterproductive. And so a question that we need to ask ourselves, and every time we open up the Word, it should not be about somebody else. It should be, Lord, what are you saying to me? Are you sabotaging all the good you are trying to do for God? Let's stop there. How many of you are trying to do something good for God in your life? You're trying to make a difference. You're trying to do something good. Are you sabotaging all the good you are trying to do by forgetting why you do it? You should do great things because you love God. So when you sing worship songs to God, it should be because you love Him. When you give to the poor, it should be because you love God and you love people. When you give a word, It shouldn't be about you. It should be about God cares about his people. I love God, and so I'm going to speak, and God's going to minister to this person because you love people. Everything we do should be because we love God and love people. Do you understand why I'm saying this is a foundational message? We could do amazing things in this church. We could have outreaches that would impact many, many people. But if we're not loving, it's going to be worth nothing. Am I making anybody hungry? Do you know where this chapter is? This chapter is sandwiched between 1 Corinthians 12 and 1 Corinthians 14, and they are both about spiritual gifts. So this love is strategically there because these spiritual gifts mean nothing without the love that's there. It's the meat. Love is the meat of spiritual gifts. How many of you, those of you that are older might remember this. There's this commercial by Wendy's where the lady had this big, huge bun and this tiny little hamburger. And she said, "Where's the beef?" You remember that? Right? Speaking spiritually, people should not have to wonder, where's the beef in our life? Where's the love? Right? They shouldn't be able to see, hey, Peter goes to church every single Sunday. He gives and this and that, but he doesn't love people. They should not see it. They shouldn't have to wonder. That it should exude from our life that we love God and that we love people. Amen? 1 Corinthians 13, we looked at what happens when we don't have love. Now let's move on to the expression. Maybe you're here today and you're saying, yes, I understand that love is important, but what does love look like? Let me show you. Verse 4 says, love is patient. Okay, so that doesn't mean that you're good at waiting for stuff. What it's really talking about is giving people time. Now, this may surprise you, but when I was 8 and 10 years old, I wasn't perfect yet. I had a Sunday school teacher, and I think her name was Cindy Stubblefield. She was a mother, and she served in our class that was there, and she brought in this beautiful plant, and just to make our room nice. And I sat in class, and I don't know what came over me, but for some reason I thought it was really funny to pluck the leaves off the plant. And she said stop, and I think I continued to pull it. And she ended up crying and going out of the classroom. And she ended up talking to my parents afterwards. I am so thankful that I didn't get kicked out of the church and abandoned away from God after that, right? You have to have patience for people to grow up and become who God has called them to be. How many of you have a moment that you regret, that you wish you could go back? Right? We all have those things. And being patient and being loving means giving people time to grow up. Amen? And if you need some help on that, think about how has God been patient with you? Has He given you patience? Yes, we've all sinned against Him, but He is faithful to us. Love is kind. That word kind comes from the word kin, which means family, treating each other like family. If you want to know what that's like, think about, how does God show His kindness to you? He's given you a job. He's given you salvation. He provides for you. He does so many things. And so every time you see these things, you shouldn't be thinking, hey, is Jason kind? What should you be thinking? Am I kind? Okay? So if you're taking notes, you should have a pencil or a pen handy. And whenever you begin to say, ouch, or when you begin to not want to hear, hoping that I'll move on to the next point, that's your sign to circle that. And you begin to pray and say, God, would you help me to be kind? God, would you help me to be patient with this individual in my life? Love, it does not envy. What is envy? You see somebody else that has that car and you want that car. Somebody has that house and you want that house. Somebody has that phone, that computer, that big screen TV, and you think you should have it, and it's not fair. You begin to envy. But love does not envy. How do we fight that? If we truly knew the love of God for us, I don't think we would struggle with envy. What does that mean? If we began to know that God loves us and all that He has done for us and all that He promises for eternity for us, that should help us realize this stuff, this is temporary. It's junk compared to what God gives us. If we truly knew the love of God, we would not envy, and then envy could not hinder our love. Have you ever been around somebody, and be honest, you don't have to raise your hand, but they have something and you don't think it's fair that they have it and you don't, and you really don't want to be around them, because when you're around them, you just kind of feel weird inside. What's happening there? Your relationship is being broken. Why? Because of envy. But love does not envy. Love does not boast. When we are too busy talking about all that we have done, it becomes difficult to build others up. Have you met people like that? That all they do is talk about all that they have done in their life or everything that's going on in them. What does that convey? You don't matter, right? And it's difficult to build people up if we're constantly talking about ourselves. Love, this goes right by it, love is not proud. So that means if I were to walk into this door and I would say, Vic, where's my coffee? Where's my cheesecake? I want my cheesecake. And make sure you reserve that best spot for me, right? Okay, friend, it's time. You gonna help me? Can somebody dust off this pulpit for me? I'll tell you a little funny thing. We had a evangelist come one time preaching, not at this church. And it was a young guy. Excuse me. It was a young guy, and his, was it fiance or wife? His wife, they're a young couple. He starts to preach, and he takes off his jacket and throws it to his wife, and his wife dutifully comes and picks it up. And to me, I don't know, that just spoke of arrogance, you know? And here's the thing, if we're going to be loving, pride cannot be in it. Pride basically says, you are here to serve me. The attention has to be on me. But humility helps us get over ourselves and pay attention to others. So that means instead of waiting for everyone to hear about you in your life, you begin to find out and ask the question, Riley, how are you? You know, what's happening in your life? Sarah, what's going on in your life? That is the opposite of pride. When we exalt God, loving others becomes natural. Once we kick who off the throne? Us. Once we kick us off the throne, put God where He deserves to be, it's a whole lot easier for us to be loving other people. Are you ready? The next one. Has anybody experienced any ouches yet? Anybody? Okay. This one may get you. I don't know. Love is not rude. Have you ever been rude to somebody? Rudeness disrespects and puts down other people. Okay, what would be an example of being rude? You know, somebody says something out of place or you think that's dumb and you just talk down to them in front of other people. That would be rude. To point out something, man, your hair looks ugly today. That's just rude. Yeah. Rudeness disrespects and puts down other people. And here's the truth. People want to feel like they have a special place in your heart. And let me tell you, this is foundational for our church. Please, above, well, I want to say above all else, but this is so important. When people walk into this place, we are believers in Christ. Don't you dare be rude to people. That is such a turnoff, right? Not only to this church, but it's a turnoff to people in their relationship with God. Rudeness So people want to feel like they have a special place in your heart. Rudeness robs that and gives them a feeling of not being loved. I mean, be honest. If somebody's been rude to you, how does that make you feel? You feel less than? You don't feel loved in that moment. Love is not rude. Okay, if you've struggled with this in your past, and here's the truth of all of this list, most likely you have struggled with one of these. Okay, so don't be afraid. If God's speaking to you, if you struggled with this in the times past, go ahead and circle that and begin to pray and say, God, please help work this out of my life. I don't want to treat people like that. Love is not self-seeking. And again, some of these tie in together. But it's not about you. It's not about me. To me, when everything is about you, it's the opposite of what love really is. Because love focuses outward. Philippians chapter 2, verse 3 says, do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit. Don't do it just for you. But in humility, consider others better than yourself. Okay, so what that is, when you walk into this room, instead of waiting for people to come and find you and see about the all-important you, it means you going find them. You think it's Sayer, he's an amazing guy. I wonder how he's doing today. Jason, he's a great guy. I want to find out more. I want to find out what's going on in his life. Outward focused. How do you think that would change your life? You know, I hear people, not recently, but I've heard people come to church and they say, no one ever talked to me. What is my natural question? Did you talk to anybody? Right? Did you share the love of Christ with somebody? That's what needs to happen. Instead of letting it all be about you and did people serve you and help you, it needs to be when you walk into this place, you are the minister. God's calling you to love people. Love is not easily angered. Any owls going on right here? Do you find yourself getting upset way too quickly, reading into things that can sabotage the love? It can sabotage what you want to do for God. I mean, again, tie this back to the beginning. You can do all of these wonderful things for God, but yet, if you're going to be easily angered, it can destroy all this good that God is doing through you. Here's the truth. Anger hurts. How many of you have been the recipient of anger? It's not fun. It's almost like an acid bath. It just goes through you. It stinks. Anger hurts. If your love is represented as water filling up a bathtub, so I want you to imagine you're investing love into somebody's life and this bathtub is filling up with love. Anger is pulling out the drain plug, and you watch all of that you have invested into somebody going right down the drain, because that's what happens. James 1:19 through 20 says this, everyone should be quick to listen. Why? Because other people are more important than you, right? Quick to listen, slow to speak. Why? Because you might say something that hurts them, that puts them down. And slow to become angry. There are going to be times where anger is appropriate. But we got to be slow. Don't go there quickly. For man's anger does not bring about the righteous life that God desires. This one we don't want to hear, do we? Because we think it does. We think if we will yell just a little bit louder, that they will see the error of their ways and will change. Don't we? But here's what the scripture says. Man's anger does not bring the righteous life that God desires. When you lose your cool, when you lay into somebody, that doesn't make them become a better Christian. It doesn't make them a better person. So God help us to not be easily angered. Love keeps no record of wrongs. How many of you have a scoreboard in your house where you track all the evil that is done to you and others? All right. So the husband has said 9 mean words, and the wife has said 4, and so she gets to have 5 more later, right? You got to keep it even. That's fair. What really happens is, in real life, somebody does something that makes you upset. You go back and you pull up all the things that they have done in the past, and you've got this huge scoreboard. And what does that do? That scoreboard becomes a wall between you and that other person. You don't want to see them. Even if they want to give love towards you, you don't want to see it because you've got this wall that's there in between you, this record of wrong. Keeping records blocks out the giving and receiving of love. Not only that, it saps us of our joy, right? It just robs it. And this is the travesty. It makes them ugly and unlovable in our eyes. If we keep thinking about all that they have done in our past, it belittles them in our eyes, and we don't want to have anything to do with them. Now, what if God applied the scoreboard to us? We'd be gone. Yeah, 1,000,000 to nothing, right? God has cleansed our record. Amen. Psalm 103:12 says, "As far as the east is from the west, so far has He removed our transgressions from us." I am so glad that I can start each day, and when I've confessed my sins, God doesn't hold me to everything that I have done in the past. He gives me a new day to serve Him. And if God can do that, can we do that for others in our life? Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. Okay. Let's say your friend is struggling really, really bad. And you say, okay, I'm going to go and share the love of Christ with them. Let's go get drunk together, and we'll commiserate the pain that you're going through. Is that love? No, that's just making their situation worse. Let's say that your friend is in need of a new car, and so the loving thing would be for you to go steal a car for them, right? That's true love. You're meeting the needs of other people. No, love does not delight in evil, but rejoices in the truth. Some people have this definition of love that it's all about making someone else happy. But the truth is, sometimes love means saying hard things to people. It's speaking the truth in what? In love. So love does not delight in evil, but it rejoices with the truth. Loving someone doesn't mean that you will do something bad for them. It means that you will do what is right, period, for them. Okay? That means not right in their eyes, but what is right for them. Love always protects. Now, when I think about this, I think about, somebody standing up for somebody that's, under attack. I'm going to stand up. And we think about physical here. But there's more to protect than just the physical body. Consider the feelings of other people. Their mind, their spirit. Those are things that we can protect, and love does that. Love always trusts. How many of you have ever watched couples ice skating before? Olympics? That is amazing. Let me tell you, that takes a lot of trust. Can you imagine somebody taking you, Maya, tossing you in the air, and you're twirling? If I were you in that moment, I would be, Lord, please help him to catch me, right? There is a lot of trust that goes on. And that's the way it has to be in our relationship. We got to have that trust that's there, and we need God's help in that. I almost lost this. There we go. Love always trusts. This is more than just trusting in the other person. It's also trusting God, that God is working on your behalf. Now, how many of you have been burned by people in your life? They've said things about you, or they've taken a wrong path for their life. Love always does what? hopes. I am so thankful that God has hope for us to change. I am so thankful that we can offer that hope for people, that today might not be the day that somebody comes to Christ, but it might be the next year or the year after that. They're always hoping. That person that is struggling with their anger or struggling in this area, this is not the end of the story. Maybe there's hope in the future that's there. Love does not operate in fear. It casts out fear. 1 John 4:18. Love always perseveres. Whether it be a marriage relationship or with your children, don't quit. Don't give up. Persevere in your love for them. And then this last one, love never fails. You may be saying today, it did, Pastor Joel. I love this person, and they wouldn't receive that love. They got angry, and they walked off. In that situation, love still didn't fail. Why? It did its work in you. In you trying to love someone that maybe are not lovely, God is doing something in you. And you don't know what impact has happened in their life. You don't know how that instance might work in them in the future. Love never fails. So we've looked at what happens when we don't have love. We've looked at how we express love, and I hope and pray that you've circled some things that you want God to work in your life in. Now let's look at what is love's role in eternity. Let's look at verse 8. But where there are prophecies, where right now we have people that will speak words on behalf of God, maybe even foretell what's coming in the future. Where there are prophecies, they will cease. There's going to come a time where we don't need to have someone speak to us words from God. Why? Because we're going to be with God. We don't need a go-between anymore. Where there are tongues, they will be stilled. Okay, somebody stands up and gives a message in tongues. Somebody interprets that. There's coming a time where we won't need that veiled mystery because we're going to see Jesus face to face. There's no longer a need for that. Where there is knowledge, it will pass away. This gift of discernment and all that kind of stuff, we're not going to need that anymore because we're going to know all things when we see Jesus. Verse 9, for we know in part and we prophesy in part. Look at all the prophecies from the Old Testament. When they prophesy, they don't tell you every single details of what's going to happen. They give bits and pieces, and God gives them these bits and pieces, and we collect them together, and we see a good picture of what's going to happen. How many of you have read the book of Revelation? You've got that clear. You know exactly what's going to happen, who the Antichrist is, right? What date he's coming? No, we see a picture, but we don't get the whole picture. We don't know everything yet. But when perfection comes, when Jesus comes again, and we are made perfect, the imperfect disappears. When I was a child, I talked like a child. I said goo-goo and gaga and mama and me want food or bacon. I don't know. Maybe I'm hungry right now. But now, I can talk in full sentences for the most part, right? Now I can understand what's going on. When I was a child, I didn't get everything. And so I talked like a child. I thought like a child. I reasoned like a child. But when I became a man, I put childish ways behind me. Why? There's greater understanding now. And verse 12 says, now we see but a poor reflection. And this picture is kind of good for this. We see this reflection, but we can't see the face. We can't even see how many fingers, although we kind of know how many. You know, we get a poor reflection here, but it is a reflection. Then we shall see face to face. We're going to see Jesus face to face. We're going to know these things. Now I know in part, then I shall know fully, even as I am fully known. So basically it's this. There's coming a day when we will not need a lot of the spiritual gifts that we have available to us today. Have we reached that day? No, we still need them. Because then there is coming a day that we will see Jesus and know him fully, and then we won't need those things. Those gifts will cease, but love will continue throughout eternity. Okay, let's go back. And how do we identify spiritual people? Are they the people that give messages in tongues? Are they the people that prophesy? Are they the people that have the gifts of discernment? Are they the people that lay hands on people and they get healed? They could be. But what's an even greater gift? Loving people. I don't care how many messages you give. I don't care about what discernment you give. If you can't love people, it's worthless. This is what will last forever. 3 things will last forever: faith, hope, and love. But what is the greatest? Love. All right. So I want you to begin thinking, who should you love? Well, the Bible says to love your enemy, right? Who else? To love your what as yourself? Love your neighbor. Begin thinking of people right now. Think about the people that you work with that you're called to show love to. Can it be applied to your kids? Kids, can it be applied to your parents? How about husbands and wives? Surely that's not for that. We're not supposed to be patient there, right? It's there as well. So we know we're supposed to be loving these people. The second question is, does your love express itself well? We've all been to the fast food drive-thru. We've ordered something and then they have said, and you're like, what? They were trying to convey something, but we didn't get it. And, we've talked in marriage class before. I'll just use an example. A husband taking his wife out for a romantic date to NASCAR. Whew. That warms the heart, doesn't it? And I know that there are some ladies that would love that. But again, same way with a guy, the wife asking him to go for an all-day shopping and spa treatment. Might not be on the top of most guys' lists. Right? So then that makes you stop and ask the question, am I loving people the way I want to be loved? Or am I loving in such a way that it says to them, I love you? Okay, those of you that are married, this is specifically for you. What says to your wife? What says to your husband that you love them? Not how do you view love, how do they view love? Why not take an opportunity, if you don't know, and just ask. When do you feel loved? What is it that I do that makes you feel loved? Or what could I do? Is it okay to ask and talk in marriage? Yeah. Yes. Do you think this would work with your kids? Maybe. Maybe love is playing a Nintendo game with your kid. Maybe love is going out and shooting some baskets. Maybe love is going to the store and helping them pick out a new purse. Think about what conveys love and make sure it expresses well to them. I lost my clicker, so we're going to go to this. All right. Think about how can you make your love last. Now, you could go out today and you could try one thing to show your love, and you could stop right there, and that would be really sad. I'm glad that you did the one thing. But how can you make your love last? When you're struggling, when you're upset, or when you're envying, and all of these are coming, how do you find that love to love other people? I think it's wrapped up in Jesus. It's hard for us to give love unless we have received love. So, step one, Mel, if you don't mind, can you come? Receive God's love for you. If you don't believe that God loves you, then it's really hard for you to love other people. Draw from His love. Think about the ways that God has shown His love to you. He's forgiven you. He's provided for you. Draw from that to then give to other people that are in your life. And then lastly with this, rest in His love. You know how I do this? I put on worship music, and sometimes I just sit in there and just kind of soak in the presence of God. Just allow God's Spirit to minister to me. You know what that does? Sometimes we can get so busy and so many things are bombarded on us that we're acting out of stress and out of pain in our own life. But when we get healed up with Jesus, it's a whole lot easier to love other people, isn't it? Can we stand together? This is a message for this church. God has called us to be a powerful place of healing and ministry, and we are supposed to grow in all of those kind of things. But it doesn't happen unless we love people. It doesn't happen unless when people walk through these doors, our face lights up because we are so happy to see them. It doesn't happen when we're so focused on ourselves that we forget that there's somebody over there crying, or there's somebody over there that had a bad day, and we spend time to talk with them. That's how we impact this world. Can we pray? Lord Jesus, I thank you that you don't ask us to do something that you haven't done. You have demonstrated your love towards us in this. While we were still sinners, you died for us. You showed us what real love is. You have been patient with us. You have been kind to us. You have given us so many things. And so, Lord, as we endeavor to serve you, may we not lessen in that, but Lord, help us not forget that everything we need to do needs to be through the filter of loving you and loving other people. Lord, if we've gone beyond that, get us back to that. Help us love. Change us right now. Could you, in your own words before God, maybe you circled a few things that you're struggling in the area of love. Would you just confess that before God? Ask God to forgive you, and then ask God to do something new inside of you to teach you how to love. Just in your own words, would you do that right now?